What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Nom Syndicate podcast. You're sitting here with Frank and Quincy.
Yep.
And today, we're going to talk about some dark and delectable liquids. We're going to talk about some bodacious brews. Mm-hmm. And as the weather is getting warmer, people are drinking their coffee a little colder. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're doing the iced lattes. You're doing all of the fun warm weather shit. But you can't always do all that shit at home.
No.
You can't be brewing. You can't be making lattes at home most of the time. I mean, you can, but at great expense.
Yeah.
And at great effort.
They ain't the same.
And we'll talk about that down the road. But today, we're gonna talk about cold brew. We're gonna lay it all out there. Mm-hmm. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, what are these guys talking to me about coffee for?
Yeah.
Why?
Tell them why we talking about coffee.
Talking about coffee. I don't bring this up much on the show.
I know it.
And
I'm the one that told you to do this because you was trying. It felt like you're trying to steer away from it from this show, but I feel like you need to.
Okay, we'll talk about.
Let them know why you talking.
We'll talk a little bit about it. So, I and my wife, my wife and I, we own a coffee company, and we roast coffee. We have cafes. Mm-hmm. We have a cafe, and we take coffee pretty seriously.
Yeah.
We are we own the Caffeinery, which is a specialty coffee organization, in good old Muncie, Indiana.
Yep.
And we're doing the best work that we know how to, but we're coffee obsessed. We've been doing it for 8 years now, and we roast coffee and sell it all over the place. It's great. We do
delicious
retail. We do wholesale. We do all sorts of things. But yeah, it became like, I don't know, coffee was like a weird thing to get into because when I originally started, you would ask me 15 years ago if I was going to own a coffee shop. I'd be like, you're crazy. Like that's not how it's going to work. I worked as a recording engineer for a long time before that. And coffee just kind of became this thing that I just kept doing and liking and getting more involved in. And, we eventually turned it into a business. And it's been great, man. We've done a lot of good work. But
good job, Frank. Proud of you, Frank.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. But yeah, man, coffee's great. It's one of those things that just never gets old. Like, I mean, you work in a lot of places.
Everybody need it.
You do, and it makes your day genuinely better. Like, coffee is one of those things that, like, nobody really, I mean, we just said that you need it, but, like, nobody really needs it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not something humans need. It's not an essential nutrient or vitamin that you actually need.
It's an affordable want is what it is.
Yeah, an affordable luxury, as it would, But the thing is despite the fact that it's absolutely not 100%, I mean, this is arguable because I would argue that it is, but it is, by legal type of definition, it's not something you absolutely need. You could go without, but coffee's everywhere. It's in every place. We've moved it to every part of the world. You can get like everything from a gas station to like just a small kiosk. Like there's coffee everywhere. We've moved it everywhere that humanity has moved. Coffee has gone with it at this point. So it's medicine for the soul. It makes you feel good. It's just great. It's a great, like, social thing. Yeah. It's just
very social drink.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Me and Shlee was talking. Me and my woman was talking the other day. We was like, we gotten to that old age where we're like, people be like, hey, y'all want a cup of coffee? We're like, yeah. Or they be like, you want something to drink? You go to visit somebody. You want something to drink? Yeah. You got a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
You got some coffee on?
You got coffee? Yeah. What kind of coffee you got?
We're requesting coffee.
Yeah, man. It's because it's awesome. It just. We're probably drinking coffee almost on every episode in here anyway. We're always brewing something up. But I guess I don't know why I didn't want to talk about coffee on this, like, for the most part. I didn't want it to be a coffee podcast. Mm-hmm. I wanted to very much be more of on a generalist type thing where we could dive into a bunch of stuff instead of just, like, one thing a whole bunch. Because coffee's great, but, like, anybody that does a coffee-centric podcast, they run out of topics pretty damn quick. Just because they're just like going off the deep end with stuff that normal people can't relate to. I mean, we go off the deep end. Like we've kind of touched upon topics that allude to the fact that
something about food.
I work in coffee.
Yeah.
But we don't like water chemistry, things like that. We've talked about, but I never really don't flex too nerdy on too many people too quick.
Flex, man.
We're gonna flex on the
Start flexing it.
We're gonna start doing this. So Quincy, by popular demand, Quincy has demanded that we basically talk about some coffee stuff and start breaking some coffee barriers down. And the first one, we figure we'll get the most approachable that we possibly can, and we'll start with the stuff that people are doing at home. And one of the things that people like is cold brew coffee, especially as it gets warmer out, especially in the Midwest where it's like we've just come out of this like really dreary winter.
Yeah.
Now, there's tons of people that drink cold coffee all the time. You're one of those people. You make cold brew even when it's like freezing outside.
Oh, yeah, I don't care.
That's fine. Right.
Yeah.
And there's numerous reasons why.
Them jitters, baby.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, Quincy needed this episode a while back, and we'll talk about that. So, with cold brew coffee, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's coffee that's brewed cold. You don't involve any heat. Now, there are a lot of coffee makers and things that you can buy at home to try to speed up the process, and they do brew coffee hot over ice, and then they bring the temperature down, and that's like their version of cold coffee. And you can do it that way. The reason I tend not to do that is just because it can kind of shock it. There is like more advanced ways of doing it. There's like a Japanese ice pour over method that's really fancy and unique, and we can talk about that at a later time. But for simplicity, we're going to start with just cold brewing coffee. Now, cold brewing coffee is fairly easy. You just have to, it's water, it's coffee. You put it in the fridge and you let it sit for between 12 and 16 hours. And then once it's done, you take it out and you have a concentrate. But, as simple as it is, there's still some things to look into. First and foremost, when it comes to brewing coffee, the most important thing that you can do is start with good coffee. That's like a really good place to start, because there are two things that you can't change once you've started. Like, you're basically sabotaging yourself from the beginning if you, like, one is bad water. Yeah. If you're not using good water.
I use bad water, baby.
But the thing is honestly, it's not as bad as what you think.
Yeah.
So, like, in the area we're at, we have really hard water, but it's mineralized. So you have minerals in that water. Bad water is when you have, like, soft water too. Like, soft water is really bad too. There's a spectrum of bad waters, but soft water is not great. And then RO water, which is basically stripped down water, it's very dry and it'll make your coffee taste kind of dry too. So, like, mineralized water is actually okay. I'm okay with that.
That good Southside tap, baby.
Yeah. But if you had the chance and you wanted to, like, really elevate your experience and you don't want to pay for, like, a specific, like, coffee type water filtration system, I would go with, like, mineral water or, like, spring water or something that has some minerals in it, not just filtered. So you want to start with good water, you want to have your good coffee, and then you need to establish a recipe. So that recipe is usually represented in professional coffee world. We represent it by ratios. So, like, you'll see different things based on like, it'll just be numbers. So it'll be, a tight ratio is a 1-to-1. So for every gram, and here's the other thing, you can use scoops and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but it's a variable. And, like, with making good coffee and doing it consistently, you want to eliminate as many variables as you can. So I highly recommend that if you give a shit and want to take your coffee to the next level, buy a gram scale. They're cheap these days. You can get them at Meijer for, like, nothing, or any grocery store. They're like super
electric joint.
Yeah. That sounds cheesy, but you can use it in other parts of your kitchen too, like whether you're weighing to cook or you're baking or doing anything like that.
Got the meal preps happening?
Yeah.
Don't use that scale.
You making a pizza dough? Yeah. Like, I weigh all my stuff. Like, I weigh anything that's baked gets weighed. It's just a more accurate way to measure. And so get that scale and, go from there. Now get yourself a burr grinder. You don't have to be fancy to start out. If we want to go down to coffee grinders, we can do that in a whole episode. I can tear that stuff apart. I'm not trying to overwhelm anybody. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to establish a ratio. For iced coffee, we use a 1-to-8 ratio. So for every gram of coffee, we use for every ounce of coffee, 8 ounces of water. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We'll do it in ounces that way, so it's easier to do, because most people are measuring in ounces anyway. So for a gallon, which is 128 ounces, you're going to be using about a pound of coffee, 16 ounces. So, and you can do it to whatever you want. So for what we do at the shop, we basically use about a pound per gallon for sure. And then we just brew it in larger amounts. And you're gonna want to grind
Man,
your
y'all got
coffee.
some good cold brew, boy.
Isn't that good?
Yeah,
It's that
it
water,
is.
baby.
It is good, man. I think it is.
No, I know it is. That
good.
water. So the water systems we use at the cafe, we have twin systems. So we have the same system at the coffee roasting facility that we do at the shop. And the water, so we use a company called Global Customized Water, and it's like a computer-controlled water filtration system. So it's constantly monitoring the water that we're getting from a municipal source, and then it strips that down to like 30 parts per million of like the solids that's in it. So you have like different salts, you have like just other organic materials and things that are in the water that make up the water. So it strips that down to 30 parts per million. And then we have these tanks of organic solutions and things like that. And
Damn,
salts.
Frank, you need a damn lab coat on talking about this coffee.
It's nerdy stuff.
Dang.
But it measures it, and in live time, it constantly alters the recipe. So you have this big formulation tank, and it constantly makes sure that it's being altered to where it's always hitting a tolerance between 150 and 155 parts per million. So that's like our recipe for our water. So I guarantee you we have like the most meticulously ridiculous
Y'all
water.
got the best water in Muncie.
Oh, easily. Easily.
I just want a cup of water from can you order just a cup of water from
Yeah,
y'all?
we give the water out for free. But it's absolutely the best water around. And it makes a big difference because when you think about
That
coffee.
Space Jam water bottle.
Oh, dude.
That's that secret stuff.
You know, man. but you got to think about it, man. Like, so coffee, I mean, is 98+% water. So if your water sucks, you're in trouble. Like that's going to make the biggest difference. And from a chemical composition part, like from the extraction standpoint of how much you're getting out of that coffee, it depends on the chemical composition of your water as to how much it will take out of the coffee when it goes into it. So if there's a bunch of, so think of it this way. If you think of TDS, like all the total dissolved solids in the water, as being extremely high, so tap water can be anywhere. It could be like 700 parts per million sometimes. So if you have that much stuff in the water,
it's going to pull less coffee.
Right, because there's less capacity for it to do it. And then if it has too little, it's going to pull too much. There's just so many different things, and it's going to affect the pH. It's going to affect all this different stuff. So there's all these different things that can affect how your coffee tastes and how it extracts and how it actually behaves. And the same thing with tea and other beverages. So we take a lot of time to make sure that that's really taken care of. And we use this reformulation system, whereas other shops will probably utilize what's called a blend back system. Blend back systems are cheaper solutions that don't actually have as much control, and they're not bad. They work well. You know, if you have one, that's great. It's better than not treating your water for sure. But what a blend back system does is it basically filters your water through the RO system and gets it down to that low TDS, down to like 30 parts per million. And then what they do is it's called a blend back because it bypasses all the filters and it brings in another line of tap water and reintroduces some tap water back in to remineralize it to your desired TDS. Now, the problem with that is that municipal water systems often fluctuate in their TDS levels based upon usage, or if it's raining, or if there's any number of things going on. So if everybody's like using the water, your TDS might spike, it might go down, and it can swing like 200 parts per million, which is way more than the 5 parts per million that we will allow to swing. Like, I want my water to be the same all the time. I want my drinks to taste the same all the time. It's whether it's raining, whether it hasn't rained in a while, whether everybody's flushing their toilet at the same time, whether everybody's taking showers. I don't give a shit what's going on. I want the coffee to taste the same because that is our dedication to quality, is to make sure that everything is always the same. And it's not cute. It's no secret. It just takes attention to detail, and it's expensive to do, and it takes that. So when somebody comes in and they're like, well, we can't get our coffee to taste the same. Well, that's because you don't have a $10,000 water system in your house, because why would you? I don't, but I do have, I'll even put a link in the description if anybody's interested. There is a system if anybody's interested in adding like a nice coffee focused water filtration system to their house for about $300. They have one on Amazon. It's called an Ice Spring. It's fantastic. I've been using it forever, and it's amazing. And it doesn't cost nearly what I have to spend at the shop. It's not as good, but it's very good for what it is.
For some at home.
Oh, at home, man, I love it. Now, I own a coffee shop, so I drink coffee at work like all the time. And then on Sundays, I'm scrubbing it hard because like I don't have the stuff. Do you ever see those memes where it's like, what chefs cook for other people and then how chefs eat at home, and it's like a jank
like
ass
bread with ice on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like that's like the real shit. Like everybody I know that owns coffee shops, that we work on this stuff all the time. It's like Sunday, you're at home, you're like, oh shit, I don't have the espresso machine. We better figure this out. Like it's like, I can't tell you how many times I get home and I just forget coffee. Like I'll be like, we don't even have coffee here. I'm like, damn it. Like, yeah, that stuff happens because I'm just so used to tasting it and it being at work all the time that's just the case. But yeah, so long story short, water is very important. Coffee is very important. And then the next thing that's important is going to be your grind and your grinder. So with coffee, the longer the coffee is going to be in contact with the water. So we're talking about a steep. We're basically steeping coffee. That's what cold brewing is. It's going to be in there for like 16 hours. You know, now you can leave it in 24. The reason I give the 12 to 16 is it just stops doing anything after about 16. Like if you leave it in there, it's just going to not do anything. Like it'll have extracted its maximum amount in about 16 hours. After that, there's really no added benefit. You've passed the point of, maximum extraction. So you're just not. So people that are like, and I see this all the time, man. There's so much misinformation for people that don't use science. The problem is there's marketing like everywhere, and people use marketing to try to make it sound like they do something unique. And like, if you don't know, it sounds like some stuff's really happening and it sounds exciting. But like, I'm here to tell you, when it comes to people being like, we steep our coffee for 3 days. Yeah. Nothing's happening. They're literally just wasting time and energy. Like that is what's going on. Like 16 hours is basically your maximum situation for extracting. I've done a number of taste tests where we've like made different batches and we've like pulled them at different times to see what happens. And after 16 hours, it's nothing. Like you don't.
No more is getting pulled out of there.
Right. It's you're just really giving those.
You're just sitting. You
those
just
grounds
feel like
soaking.
drinking coffee that day. That's all it is.
Absolutely. So like you want to make sure, since you have this long contact time, like you're going to be doing that 16 hours. You don't want to, if you have too fine of a grind. So the finer the grind, the larger the surface area that you're giving. So it means the more that's exposed.
Yeah.
And then the bigger the grind, the smaller the surface area. And when you have a really fine grind, it's just going to get extracted really quickly. You want it to take its time. So you want to have a really coarse grind. You want it to be, those pieces to be pretty big, because they're going to be in there for 16 hours, right? Like that's a long time to be in the pool. You're going to get all pruny. Yeah. Now you got plenty of time, right? So yeah, go big on the grind, and then you want to grind it. So there's a lot of talk about grinders. Like you can get one for like, just avoid the blade. Get, like if you have it, that's okay. It's better than nothing.
Yeah. It definitely ain't consistent, because I got the blade and that boy is not
it's
consistent.
rough, man.
Like I still be having whole beans after a good couple Paulsons. I got still whole beans floating in my stuff.
Man, I gotta upgrade you. I'm about to hook you up with something.
It's rough.
I know what I'm getting you for your. What's the next closest holiday for you, man?
My birthday.
Oh yeah, that's right around the corner. All right, we know what we're getting Quincy for his birthday. He needs a burr grinder. So burr grinders are great because they pretty much do a good job of keeping things pretty uniform. They're not cutting, they're crushing, and you can be more uniform when you crush than when you're slicing a bunch of stuff up. And so I know it seems weird. It seems like I know at home, if you're listening to this and you don't have to do a bunch of objective experiments with this, you're probably like, how much of a difference does it really make? It's a big difference. Like it's wild. So like, to give a visual of what this is like, if you are cooking at home, and hopefully if you're somebody that cooks, this will resonate. But if you are at home and you are meticulously cutting, let's say you're sauteing vegetables, right? So say you're cutting up a bunch of onions to cook down. You're going to dice them. And you get pretty meticulous. You want all them shits to be the same size, right? So they all cook the same time. That's what a good grinder does. Bad grinder is where you just close your eyes and you hack at that shit and you have no idea what the size is going to look like. So you got these little tiny pieces and you got these big pieces. So the little ones are burning. The big ones aren't even getting done. And what we call that in grinders, they're rated by particle size distribution. What's the distance from the smallest piece to the largest piece in a grind? And the more expensive your burr grinders get, the tighter that ratio is going to be. But that's not to say you got to spend like I mean, like we use competition, like when you get into espresso grinders, them shits is crazy. Like you're spending like $2,000 to $3,000 a grinder. Nobody is doing that.
No,
at least not most of the people I'm hanging out with.
First espresso I ever had was at your shop.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I ain't. Yeah, I've only had 2, and it's only.
Yeah, right. I mean, like that. It's just not something that's practical.
Yeah,
but you could get like a pretty good grinder for about between $80 and $100 for, and that's not bad if you're drinking coffee every day.
Yeah,
you gotta love yourself, man.
Yeah.
Just
and think about it. You only pay for it once.
Yeah, it pays for itself real quick.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, like one of the $100 ones that I recommend is the Capresso Infinity. You can get them shits on Amazon for pretty cheap. Like I've put those things through the ringer.
Yeah.
Like it will last you years and years and years and years. And you can buy replacement parts for it. It's great. But yeah, so you want to have a uniform particle distribution size. You want to make sure that you've got that coarse grind. And then once you have that shit situated, you're going to need a filtration system. Now there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can get, you can get jank with it if you really want to. You can put that shit you do the ball jar method, which is what I tell people to do.
Yeah.
Just put it straight up in there, everybody in the pool, and then filter it on the way out.
Yeah.
And you could do that even easy. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, if you get since it's a ball jar and you got the ring, you can put a coffee filter on top of it and kind of loosely screw it in and then turn it upside down and let it drip.
What I got is my woman bought this tea joint, and it's like it's like a glass, like see-through glass joint, and then there's this metal filter that goes inside that's like the size of the whole glass, and the holes are real fine. Okay. So it fits perfectly in my ball jar, so I just put it on top of there and just screw it on.
Oh, nice.
Like screw it in with the lid still.
Oh, that's cool.
And I just pour it out. It's perfect.
That's pretty great.
It's perfect. I got to look at what that joint's called, but it is perfect.
Yeah. So if you don't have anything that cool and fancy, I mean, you can get pretty.
Yeah, I was doing that pour over, but my stuff sometimes with that
clog it up.
Yeah, it was clogging it up too quick. I was like, when can I drink my coffee?
Yeah, sometimes it takes time. Like a lot of times, we'll just turn something over, and so we do 2 filtration methods. Like when we do it commercially, so we have a small fine metal filter to go to first. And then we also have a paper filter, so it's like super bright. That gives you that crispness. You can have it where the metal filter is going to let a little bit more through, which is okay because it's going to give you more body. It's going to have like more sediment, so it'll be a little more silty. It'll be a little heavier, which if that's what you're going for, lean into it. That's fine. There's no right and wrong way on how you like your coffee. At the end of the day, that's like what it comes down to. You doctor it up how you want to do it, but there are ways to get to what you want. Yeah. The whole key is to just know what you want and then get there. So if you want it to be like really clear and clean, or not clear, but you want like a clean finish where it's not just sitting on your tongue for a minute, you're going to want to use some sort of paper filtration. And you can just buy like a Mr. Coffee filter and just like screw it onto that lid and just pour. It's just going to take time. Like you were saying, you're going to have to wait on it. So turn it upside down, put it in something it can rest in, and then come back later because it's going to be a minute. Yeah. Now, here's the important part. So this whole 1 to 8 situation that I'm talking about, so 1 ounce of coffee for 8 ounces of water, that shit yields a concentrate. I did not tell Quincy that. And this dude's been drinking concentrate straight up. He was getting jacked.
Oh, man. It was big. Because I don't even know how I was measuring mine out, but I still do it. I do like 3 cups of just because I ain't even weighing it.
Yeah,
I just
doing
use
it
3 cups and I just grind up 3 cups of coffee and put it in like a 3-quart mason jar. Yeah. And then fill it up to the top with water. Bro. And it is strong. But I thought that's what I was supposed to be drinking.
No, it's fine.
Like straight up. And I was drinking I would drink almost that whole jar in a day.
Yeah, Quincy brought this over to the house. And he's infusing it with cool shit. So the other thing is you can mess with some cold brew. You can infuse it. You can add some spices. You can add like peppers. You were adding like jalapenos to give it a kick.
I had apple slices, cinnamon sticks, and peppers in there.
Yeah, he's
getting wild. It was like this spicy apple, like a cinnamon apple taste. It was pretty dope. It was awesome. And it had that dry, like a wine. Yeah, it was weird, but it was good. But it was concentrated.
That was because it was concentrated.
I poured them cups. He said, "What do you cut it with?" I was like, "What? Cut it?"
Yeah, dude. Once that stuff got you moving.
Yeah. I was like, "That's why I be shaking."
Yeah. The dose was high.
Yeah.
So if you're making it and you've got this concentrate, you got to dilute it to whatever your taste is. So like if you're gonna dilute it to 1-to-1 because you want it a little strong, that's tight. If you want to do 1-to-1.5 or 1-to-2, you want it a little lighter, that's up to you. You gotta dilute it to your dose, but know that you need to dilute it. It doesn't need to be.
You gotta dilute it. I do it now. I'll pour me like a cup like this,
and it's gonna last you twice as long.
Like this. Yeah. Like I'll only drink that cup of that day. But yeah, boy, I was knocking them back. Dude. I was like,
yeah, man. I was like, oh my God, you need not do that.
Sometimes I drink a whole thing. I'm like, man, I'm feeling a little sick today. I must not ate nothing. Like, no, I just drunk way too much.
Yeah, you were just lit. Yeah, you were on it, man.
Like, I never sleep. Why? Why don't I be sleeping no more?
Because you don't need to anymore. It's over. You just pure coffee. It's great. And so if you've got the dilution method down to what you like, that's great. Now here's the other fun fact about cold brew coffee. So say you're somebody that is kind of susceptible to coffee irritating your stomach, like it makes your stomach get a little sour. Because that happens. There are some acids that come with coffee when it's brewed with heat.
Yeah.
You don't have that as much with cold brew coffee. So if you're coffee sensitive, you got that tum-tum that gets a little sensitive when you drink coffee,
Yeah.
Cold brew is going to be less of a problem. You're going to have a less acidic coffee. And then, you want to take that even further, just cut it with unless you're sensitive to dairy, like my man over here, you can do some oat milk.
Oat milk, good.
Yeah, oat milk is fire. I got oat milk in this coffee right now, and it's fantastic. So cut it with a little of that, and that's even going to help even further. But there's a lot of people that come into the shop, and they're just like, I just can't drink coffee because it's really hard on my stomach. And we would turn them on to cold brew, and we would kind of figure out how to, doctor up the drink that's very similar.
Because I'd have been like, well, why you come in here? You can't hurt yourself. Why you coming here?
This is a coffee shop. We are specialists. We like to make sure that people.
You want some water? Our good water we got.
We like to take care of this community. We're like, hey, what can we do to make sure your quality of life is slightly higher than what it is now? And sometimes that's just a matter of like, hey, now you can enjoy a fire cup of coffee. Now you can try some cold brew. Now you can do this, and like. It's just good. And plus, people like to go out and, like we said, coffee's a social beverage. You want to get out there. You want to do the thing. So it's really nice. So to recap, 1-to-8 ratio.
Yeah.
And then we are going to use a coarse ground coffee, preferably with a burr grinder. If you don't have a grinder and you order from a place like us, we will grind it to order. So not only do we roast your coffee to order, we will actually grind it for whatever you need. And on there, you would order for a cold brew or a French press. You can go to thecaffeinery.com if you feel so inclined. I'll hook it up. Especially if you live in the Muncie area or the Yorktown area, we not only sell it online, but we offer free local delivery services for those
give me
communities.
That repeater and habitual every time. That's the flavors I use too. I do half and half.
Oh, you do the espresso and the house blend.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's the business, man. That's my favorite flavor. My daughter started making our coffee for us sometimes, and she'll be like, it tastes different, but she's only been using one or I don't even know which one she uses.
She's not blending.
She don't blend them. I blend them even when I just do the brew joint, the drip brew joint. But the old perculator.
Oh yeah,
but she don't mix them, so it's like we used to them being mixed all the time.
And
she like it tastes good, but I'm like, girl, you ain't mixing the coffee.
You don't have my unique blend. No, I totally understand.
Because it like you really do like how y'all roast them, like them flavors. You notice. Notice.
Yeah, especially when you drink it all the time. That's the other thing is like it's so like routine. You can't be messing up. People are gonna know. So like, yes, you definitely want to have your coffee game down. If you have a grinder, be sure to grind it coarse. If you don't have a grinder, get to a place that will grind it fresh for you. Don't buy pre-ground coffee that's just been sitting on a shelf, please. You should love yourself more than that.
Yeah, love yourself.
Yeah, grocery stores are not the place to buy coffee. Now, I'm not hating. Because we all start.
Don't hate.
Well, we all start somewhere. Well, I'm gonna have to hate on myself then because that's what happened. Like back when I was drinking coffee, I was doing the same thing.
Oh, you're not hating on the people.
No.
Oh yeah. But hate on the other company.
Oh, absolutely.
We can do that.
So like the thing is it's like you go to these places and the vision that you have is that like okay these markets and these grocery stores are getting this coffee in fresh. No, they're not. They buy that stuff in bulk so they can get a huge price discount, and then it sits in a warehouse forever. and then it gets out on that shelf.
It sits in the store forever.
Oh yeah, man, it's not bad. You go to, but people that go to the coffees that go get their coffee at the grocery store predominantly just buy on price anyway. Like you go there, there's no rhyme or reason as to what gets bought. You just see what's on sale, and that's what's gone. That's what people are buying. Yeah. But yeah, it's old. That coffee's old and tired. Coffee does have, like, once it's been ground, especially, it does have a shelf life, and it's pretty quick. So if you're gonna get coffee, I mean, it's the same as buying ground pepper versus fresh cracked pepper. Yeah. It's hard to go back. Like, unless you just, your arm is tired and you don't want to be doing a whole bunch of it, like, you could buy some ground pepper then. But like, for the most part, like, there's no substitute. You just gotta figure it out. But so make sure you get your coffee ground fresh or have it ground when you order it. And then just make sure you steep for no longer than 16 hours. You can go longer, it just won't matter. And then you definitely want to dilute that shit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, your heart gonna go crazy.
Yeah, and then once you dilute it, you're good to go, man. Make it however you want. It's great. It's a great way to enjoy coffee when it's warm out, when it's cold out, and it's great to like make it to go real easy. It's pretty tight. What else you got on cold brew besides infusing it with cool shit? I've been talking way too much. This is what happens when you say coffee stuff.
This is what this is for, man. Let you speak on what you know, man. Makes for a good episode. The science behind all this. You didn't know the coffee was so scientific, man.
Dude, coffee's nuts. It's crazy. Every time we do classes, we bring people in, teach them about different stuff. They're like, wait, what?
Dope. Talk your passion, man. I let it go. I ain't going to interrupt, you know.
Man, why is this happening? Although he would be interrupting if he drank that cold brew the way it was.
Oh, yeah. If I drank that cold brew today, I drunk some earlier today. So I was cool, but I did dilute it. But boy, before you told me that, I was drinking. I'm going,
oh my God.
We had turn that joint up.
We had a tasting this morning with some customers, and then we did like a bunch of espresso stuff. I was jacked. Now I kind of went past the spot. I'm like a little tired now because I was way too awake earlier. Like I was way awake. I was just like, okay, guys, what do you want to talk about next? I was like, ugh. It was like I was hearing colors, dude. I was like, woo.
Yeah, coffee will get you like that, like especially if you ain't ate nothing. Because I drink a lot of coffee through the day.
Well, it can be fleeting though. Yeah. Let's be real. Like riding that perfect caffeine wave is kind of tricky because if you didn't eat and you haven't properly hydrated, it's gonna turn on you.
See, I got when I'm at the crib, I got a cup of coffee and I got my water, and I'm constantly drinking water. So I'm always, but I'm still drinking. I'm still only drinking coffee though. Like it's still all I'm intaking in the mornings or during the day. Like I just usually don't eat too much through the day. Yeah, or I might be snacking. I'm probably just eating sugar too. Yeah, so it don't even matter. I'm just on a high until it crashes. You know what I'm saying?
No, I totally understand. Dude, that's like every new barista that starts working for us. We're like, you need to pace yourself.
Yeah,
you should probably drink some water. Have you taken a break? Have you eaten anything?
Yeah,
like you got a baby.
Go get you a sandwich.
Yeah, please just hang out. Like, can you just drink something? Cause you'll know too. Because like the other thing is like you start working at a coffee bar. This could be a whole episode as new baristas because we all go through it. I've been through it.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't like to waste stuff. So like when you get to the point that you got to pour stuff out, they start trying to like drink it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're like, shaking all over the place. I'm like, you need to stop.
Yeah.
This is not okay. It's okay.
It's okay. Pour it out.
Yeah, pour that out. You're not helping yourself. But anyway, we'll keep this one concise. We'll end it on cold brew, and we'll visit other coffee topics as we go. If you have any cold brew questions or anything like that, feel free to fire them our way at nomsyndicate@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all the fun stuff. Find us on YouTube. We really need people to subscribe to our YouTube, and here is why. We need 100 people to subscribe to that channel so that we can have that custom URL, baby.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's a bunch of numbers and letters and shit, and it's not fun. I want to be able to say YouTube.
I want enough people so I can relax my hairline, man. You see this? I'm trying to keep my dang dreads up.
Yeah, look at this dude. He is doing this for
man.
you.
This is for y'all. I got my forehead out for y'all.
Yeah, man. Hook this up. Get us to the 100 people so that way we can get the URL so it's easier for people to find us. Because right now you got to search, and then it's easy to search, to be honest. But
yeah, it is.
It would be so nice to just have
It'd
that.
It'd be nicer.
Yeah, we trying to be fancy over here.
Man.
So hook it up. Go out there, subscribe to that thing, give us some love, and until next time, we'll catch you later. Peace.